What was the most awkward thing you witnessed in a school classroom?
Like and subscribe, or else these'll be in your bed tonight.
In high school I reached down for a binder that was in my backpack on the floor. I reached down to grab it, and when I positioned myself back upright in my chair, I ended up scooping the teacher's boobs, who was walking down the aisle, with my head. We just kinda looked at each other in fear, and no words came out of either of our mouths. Nobody else saw it, or at least made a point to say that they saw it. I like to think it was just our little uncomfortable secret. This was in middle school. The bell went off for us to go to our next class and I noticed a girl had bled through onto her light colored blue jeans. Even with me being the kind of boy that no girl would ever talk to if she wanted to keep what little status she might have had with the other girls in the school, I took the risk that might come with having a conversation with a girl. I quickly walked up right behind her, like creeper close, put my hands on her shoulders to get her to slow down a little, and I leaned in and whispered into her ear, "You've bled through your pants. I will follow you to the girls' bathroom. Just act normal," and took my hands off her shoulders. She never looked back. She didn't say a word. We walked nearly bumper to the girls' bathroom. I kept on walking past and off to my next class. I never spoke to her again. I don't remember her face or her name anymore, but I wonder sometimes if I had crossed the line of creeper or kindness. Edit. English is hard. In 7th grade, there was this girl that was known for doing all kinds of weird shit. She cut a chunk of her hair off and left it on my friend's desk as a birthday present, meowed at people, and cried when anyone stepped on a bug. The most awkward incident happened when she dropped her pencil during a test. I guess she was too shy to ask the person next to her for it, so she tried to stretch for it and ended up flipping her desk over. She then continued to do her test in her desk sideways for another 10 minutes until the teacher told another student to flip her over. My 30-year-old teacher admitted she was a virgin to a class of high school sophomores. That didn't end well. In 7th grade we were watching breast exam videos. Now this required a great deal of maturity on our end that admittedly we all failed when the doctor checking this beautiful woman's breasts turned to the camera and smiled and gave a thumbs up. We fell out pretty hard at that one. As the teacher is trying to get this entirely male class to calm down, they segregated sex ed. Someone starts actually screaming and freaking out and shouting, "Holy shit, look at that guy." Turns out, over in the corner, that kid was going to fucking town on his junk in a way none of us had ever seen before. Just mangling it viciously in the corner. You know that Dave Chappelle skit about being held hostage by a masturbator on a bus? This was like that. No one knew what to do. Everyone froze. Then, he just sat down, pants still half off, bright red, and started sobbing. So that. My 10th grade geometry teacher was a heavier lady with big ol' sloppy boppers, if you know what I mean. Well, one day those warlocks just started to lactate out of nowhere, like full streams running down her shirt via the nipple area. She decided to ignore this and continued to teach the class, a very disgusted class. I remember a substitute teacher that we had for a few days when I was in middle school. She was pretty overweight, and one day she grabbed a chair from an empty desk to help someone out with their assignment, when suddenly we heard a loud crash. One of the legs on the chair had broken, and she was flat on her back. It was hard not to laugh, but what made it even worse is as she was getting up, she ended up farting very loudly. The entire class erupted in a fit of laughter, and she had to leave the classroom because she was so embarrassed. My school was going through a pantsing epidemic. Verb pantsing, depantsing, or skanking is the pulling down of a person's trousers and or underwear against their wishes on one particular day. We had just finished a particularly vicious game of rugby during PE. My friend was tackled with the force of a 6', 14-year-old juggernaut who had a tendency to grab the back of your shorts and yank them high into the pooper. A wedgie, if you will. After the game my friend realized that his boxers were bloody and poopy, so chose not to wear them and just put his school trousers back on. We were in math class later that day and he was called to the front of the class to write something on the board. The teacher left the room for a moment when disaster struck, and to the surprise of no one, Another kid solid snaked his way to the board and yanked my friend trousers down to his ankles nude. His immediate response is to turn to face the class, his little bishop in a turtleneck neck staring everyone down. My professor for a computer science class had his phone go off during a lecture one day. He's a pretty chill old man, so everyone starts giggling and some people are yelling at him to answer it. He looks at his phone and says, "Oh no, I'm not answering. My brother died today and I have to make funeral arrangements. I'll call back later." And then he moved on with his lecture. I've never seen a room so awkwardly quiet and sad. Back in the 6th grade, I had a kid who always caused trouble and tried to be the center of attention all the time. Well, this kid had a weird way of flirting with girls, whether it would be to shoot spitballs at them or pour water on them. One day he told all his friends that he will literally shit his pants during class in order to show off to the girls. During class you hear giggling and it began to smell like actual shit. Everyone looks at him because he was sitting in the back of class and he stands up while laughing and says, "Teacher, I need to go to the bathroom, I accidentally shit my pants." With shit running down his legs he walks out of class laughing hysterically as if he had just won a Nobel Prize or something. BTW, he was never popular with the girls. I don't understand. How could this fail? I don't know if this is awkward or more uncomfortably sad. When I was in middle school, pretty tight knit, a kid had died on Saturday. I had a couple classes with him, but didn't know him that well. On Monday my second class of the day had a sub and the kid who died happened to have been in that class. I guess no one clued the sub in because she called his name during attendance. It was deafeningly silent and felt like the air was slowly being sucked out of the room. After a second or two she called his name again, and several people burst into sobs and ran from the room. Then I heard someone whisper he died. Another teacher I had was absent that day too. I think he had some prior engagement as opposed to randomly taking a sick day, and the next day, when he came back, the boy that died was also in this class. He was apologizing profusely for not being there for us and everything. At some point during his little speech he started crying and slammed his fist down on his desk. It was so sad. He truly felt awful for not being there that day. Had a similar experience. A lot more awkward for me though. A bunch of people were walking around drearily and I walked right up and asked, "What? Who died?" And somebody actually had. It was my 16th birthday. I skipped first period to pick up my driver's license from the DMV. When I returned for second period world history, I can see through the small window in the door that the lights are off and there's a TV in the class. Sweet. Movie day on my birthday. As I enter the room proudly holding my license in my hand, I hear several people crying. I look over to the TV and see flaming buildings crashing down. It was September 11th, 2001. Walks into room. What? Did some towers fall to a terrorist attack? And some actually had. When I was in elementary school, there was a girl in my class who wanted to go to the bathroom. The teacher repeatedly refused her request and finally she shit herself. The teacher ushered her to the bathroom and put the turd in a plastic bag and held it in front of the class while the girl stood there next to her, humiliated. Pretty sure she called the girl's parents to pick her up after that. The girl just sat in her desk with her head down until they arrived. My 3rd grade teacher did something similar to a girl in my class. Girl asked to go to the bathroom and the fat cunt teacher said no. After a few more denials, the girl pissed herself and the teacher shamed her in front of us all. One time one of my friends was emptying out his backpack on his desk looking for his phone or something when the teacher noticed that he had mid-all period relief medication in his bag. The teacher asked him why he had it and he said it was for headaches, not knowing its main purpose. Everyone in the class, including the teacher, bursted out laughing and quickly told him what it was really for. It was really only awkward for him, I guess, but it was funny as hell. Also, I talked to him later and he said the real reason he had it is because he had a drug test coming up and he smoked pot a week before and he read that mid-all could help cleanse your system to pass the test. Obviously he didn't want to tell the teacher this though, so he said it was for headaches lol.